the system worked pretty well. And even today, it still does. But that hiccup, I knew there was a bigger story than what we were reading in the mainstream press. And it was, ironically, Tim Geithner's interviews that he gave very close together. The first one of which he said interest rates were too low, and that's why the mortgage market imploded. And the second one, he said we should lower interest rates even more. And
so you had somebody who clearly was talking out of both sides of his mouth,
yes,
or didn't understand from minute to minute what was going on.
Potentially both.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what got me curious. And I started asking all of my big thinker friends who were more thoughtful about the way the system really worked. And one of them said, start reading the Mises Daily Mail and you'll figure out how the Fed works. Because by that point, I knew the Fed was at the center of the financial system, and there was something that just didn't quite make sense. So I went deep down the rabbit hole.
So what is it about the Fed's role that you think was central to the financial crisis? And then how does the Austrian school kind of respond to that, or clarify that for you?
Sure. And by the way, I didn't just go into Austrian school. I looked at everything because I just didn't accept the mainstream explanation. But what I figured out was that we didn't have a free market in money. And the most important price in the economy that should absolutely never be tampered with is the price of borrowing money. In other words, the interest rates. And specifically, it's the money market rate of interest that should always be free, because that's what gives entrepreneurs the red, yellow, green signals as to which sector to invest in and over what tenor to invest, short-term versus long-term.
And so the Fed, by manipulating interest rates and the money supply and things like that, it screws with, we don't really know what money costs at any given point.
That's exactly right. I am confident in saying that interest rates would be a lot higher today, than they would be if we lived, than they are today, if we actually had a free market in money, no question, because you'd have to compensate savers for the risk.
So so what about the Austrian school appeals to you then?
There was an aha moment for me when I read an essay that had two graphs that described, it was just simple supply demand for money, and it showed the disconnect. The Hayekian triangle was really what it was in a simplistic form, and it showed the disconnect and made me realize, oh my gosh, there's no question that supply and demand for borrowing money are out of whack, and that rates should be higher. And by rates being lower, we are subsidizing capital destruction. And it just was coming out, of course, with a vengeance at that point. But we're back at it. We're doing the same thing today.
Now, the Austrians, though, also tend to believe, they hate fiat currency and they love the gold standard. Do you believe in a gold standard? Because you're a big Bitcoin blockchain person. And it seems like the gold bugs and the Bitcoin people don't get along very well.
Yes, it's so true. It's fascinating because I'll be at Austrian events and folks will come running up to me, how is this? How does this work again? And I think it's because Bitcoin fits in the Mengerian definition of money better than it fits in the Misesian definition of money. I'm really in the weeds now.
No, that's, well, like, okay,
right,
Carl with a K, Menger,
but Jeffrey Tucker wrote a tremendous essay in 2014 explaining how Bitcoin actually does fit with Mises